At some point in our life, we all have conflict with others, conflict within us. What do we do about this conflict? How do we solve this conflict? Do we sit with that conflict within us? If we do, that affects our health and well-being. So in order to stay healthy and be content within us, we need to try to resolve our conflicts. Hey, change makers, are you ready to learn about conflict resolution? I am Rajitha Bommakanti, registered nurse, faith-based holistic coach, national board certified health and wellness coach, and culinary coach. If you want to develop healthy habits for life one step at a time, then click the red subscribe button and the bell icon. To learn about conflict resolution, today I invited Ranjeeth Thunga. Ranjeeth has a psychology degree from Johns Hopkins. I would like to ask Ranjeeth, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this conflict work? Before that, if you can just share with our audience just a little of your personal journey from how you were growing up and how did you fall into being interested in conflict resolution?
I would say there's always been within me the theme of human conflict since I was 5 years old. Sometimes I tell the story of when I was a kid. When I was in kindergarten, the boys were arguing that the boys were better than the girls, and the girls were arguing that the girls were better than the boys. And I stood up and said, boys and girls are both good. And then instead of being angry at each other, everybody got angry at me. So that was like my first foray into this area. And one thing that was clear throughout my life is that we don't have the answers. We don't really know what it takes to resolve conflict. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be in the situation it is in, and otherwise our lives wouldn't be filled with conflict on all different levels. So my background, of course, I studied psychology at Johns Hopkins. At college also, I experienced a very traumatic conflict that has shaped the rest of my life. And it allowed me to see things from behind the veneer, so to speak, of seeing that there's how things work in this world and how we are supposed to work and actually what happens behind the scenes. So I've gone into meditation, and meditation has been a profound transformative experience for me because it allows me to see and to be aware of the inner world within me more precisely. And as I develop in the meditation practice, I'm able to see the root causes of conflict more clearly as living inside us, living within our own reactions, within our own body-mind. And it's clear that, of course, there are a lot of questions as it relates to conflict, but it's clear that dealing with conflict on all levels ultimately does start from within. And this simple premise shapes the course of my work moving forward.
Thank you. So from what I hear you say is the conflict really starts within us.
It does, yeah. The conflict
is within us. So you're saying, but let me ask you, I have a conflict with my coworker. How could it be within me? It's really what my coworker did to me. That's the reason it's not me. It's my coworker.
Yeah, and it's a good dilemma you share, and we can all relate to this. Our coworkers, our bosses, our parents, our family members, and looking on a larger scale, this group of people or that group of people, the Democrats, the Republicans, the blacks, the whites, the yellows, the browns, the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, the Hindus, and the different countries, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Israelis, the Palestinians. But if we look at all of them, and if we pay attention within all of these situations, we'll notice that there's a reaction happening within us. There's a reaction happening within us that is the conflict itself. So even if it's something that our coworker is doing that's so stupid and wrong to our eyes, the reaction is happening within us. And thus the conflict can actually be reconciled from within by paying attention to that reaction and by being with that just a little bit of time. It could be just a few seconds of being aware of our breath, being aware of the sensations in our body. We're actually able to see conflict from a different lens, and we're able to, using the statement a lot of people say, respond versus react, and we're able to navigate through the conflict completely differently. And what might appear to be on the outside is then realized to be something that we have control over on the inside.
We are pointing our fingers to others, but it's not really others. It's within us. So you're saying we first have to solve what's happening within us before we look at others, the environment outside. It's an inner conflict resolution. Is that what I hear you say?
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. And this is not new teachings. We'll find in our wisdom traditions, we'll find in the Bible, we'll find in the Hindu scriptures, we'll find it within the teachings of the Buddha, that the conflict is actually happening on the inside. And the attention is what's happening on the inside. We might judge it to be on the outsides, but we must look within and deal with the conflict that's within. And when we deal with the conflict within, then what happens on the outside actually seems to transform into something else.
So how do I look within? How can I tell what's happening? How do I look within myself to see, what is that root cause that I need to address?
Yeah, good question, Rajitha, and that's of course the big question. Look within, and I think it requires a meditation practice or a contemplative practice. The word meditation, I believe, but it's some practice where we're simply aware of what's happening on the inside, and it could be through awareness of breath, anapana meditation, or awareness of the sensations in our body, vipassana meditation, or some other process, even without a label, that we're actually being aware of what's happening within ourselves. And we're able to change the focus of attention to inner instead of outer. So, of course, there are many resources available. I can share my experience has been, of course, through Vipassana meditation, which you could look up through the website dhamma.org, DHAMMA.org. But there are plenty of other resources, and I encourage everyone to, if they haven't undergone a meditation process, to simply look at what's out there and find for themselves what might work for them. And even if it's not a formal meditation process, just a few minutes of being silent within ourselves can do wonders, I feel, in changing that focus to inner versus outer.
So how do I do that? I'm a busy person, always running around doing stuff. I have a long list of things to do, and you are asking me to just observe myself, which I'm not used to. So can you give me a process how to do it? How do I do that?
I think that, and then it's basically a prioritization and a commitment, I would say, ultimately. And I think that it takes a commitment that is motivated by suffering. Ultimately, it's by suffering. I sometimes say, like, hit our head against the wall. We as human beings, like, bang our head against the wall, and we suffer, like, with the conflict that we face in our lives on all of these different levels. And I think that the suffering ultimately motivates us to say, no, this is what we're thinking is dealing with the conflict is not actually dealing with the conflict. We need to look within. So a prioritization happens if we've suffered enough. That's, I can say from my experience. And And then a commitment to say, okay, like this is going to take the highest priority in my life. Self-reflection, meditation, prayer, contemplation, whatever we call it, that is going to take the highest priority in my life. Dedicating a certain window within the day to do that. And it could be while doing other activities. The barrier is so low to entry for meditation, I feel, because we don't have to do anything special. We don't have to do anything special. We just have to prioritize it and commit to the process and let it take the form of like, and I think a lot of the work that you do, Rajitha, is really powerful in helping us shift our perspective to be aware of what's happening within our own self and making those micro habit adjustments. Like, okay, like in this situation, I reacted. Like next time I go through a similar situation, let me pause for a second and be aware of what's happening within. And then over the course of, I would say, our lifetime, it naturally increases where we bring meditation into more and more aspects of our life naturally. And we are paying attention within first before looking outside.
I hear you say the first step is realization, awareness, right? Awareness that, okay, I have a conflict. That is the first step. Is that what I hear you say, Ranjeeth?
Yeah, you could say that the awareness is, and that goes hand in hand with the commitment. And I think that actually goes hand in hand. So maybe even you could even say hand in hand or preceding even the commitment is an awareness that this is what is actually going on as it relates to conflict. So it is something that from the teachings of the Buddha, awareness and equanimity go hand in hand. As in, to the degree that we are aware is also the degree that we are to be balanced. It's not just awareness. If it's just awareness, we'll lose the balance of our mind. Or if it's just balance, then we're not going to be, it's not going to be coming from wisdom. So we need awareness and equanimity. We need to be able to engage in and see conflict in different situations, see our role in the conflict in different situations, and see our place in the conflict, as well as maintain the balance of our mind at the same time. So it's, I guess, in a roundabout way, I'm saying awareness and equanimity, okay. Balance of our mind.
So I heard you say about breath, observing our breath. Mm-hmm. So tell me about it. Let's say I'm struggling with something, so that inner turmoil, conflict going on. Would you say that I need to pause and just pay attention to my breath, what's happening, how am I breathing, and how do I feel within myself? How my state of my nervous system.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a very simple step. We could say it's simply that, and that simple awareness changes the course of how conflict transpires. That's all it takes, if you boil it down.
So in other words, I disagree with somebody. Mm-hmm. I need to just pause and step away from it instead of just engaging in that conflict.
Yeah. And it's as simple as that. And we might step away if we need that extra space. We may be able to maintain the balance of our mind in that conflict. It depends, of course, we can engage, but certainly a quarter of a second even of being aware of our breath can change the way that the conflict actually transpires. I'm very much with that. And I've seen that, of course, in my own life, like countless times. And each time we see this happening, it's like, wow, amazing. And like that motivates us for the next time. Like, wow, okay, like this could have went that way, but it actually didn't. It went this way instead of that way.
I heard you say about meditation. I see that the beauty of meditation is just doing nothing. right? We are not really doing anything, but sitting in silence and focusing within us. So, how does meditation help with the conflict resolution?
I think that that shift in focus from like to be aware of what actually is happening within us is is um is the transformative element. And there's a story in the Bible of people stoning a woman because of adultery, and Jesus had stepped in and said, "Those who have not sinned cast the first stone." And that statement gave pause to people to look within. In a sense, that's almost, you could say, like a meditation in a nutshell. That parable, or that event, rather, because it's by turning our attention inwards, we realize we can't be looking outward for conflict. We look within, and when we realize the conflict that's within us, the conflict starts to fall away. The conflict that we might have, or the hatred we might have for someone, starts to fall away just by that inward gaze.
So, what you have just said about that hatred for others, right?
Mhm.
We are used to, you don't like somebody, somebody did something to you. As you know, we have grown up in a way, okay, I don't like them, I hate them. So, how is that affecting me when I'm like constantly in that turmoil? Okay, because they did something to me, I'm never ever going to talk to them because, they're not nice to me. Um, that is also a form of conflict. How is that affecting of my health and well-being?
And that's an interesting thing, and I think that this is something that we as a society have to come to terms with, is that these things are not, that our perspective our perspective on others is affecting our health, like at the end of the day. Like when we have hatred towards someone or ill will towards someone, it is affecting our nervous system. It is messing with the way that our body mind works. It is agitating us. It is causing a variety of different health problems. And there are studies, of course, uh, uh, as you I've shared within the course of your work as well, from what I've seen, and many decades of experience that show that our health on numerous levels is affected by our attitude and our perception of others. And so if we're harboring hatred and ill will towards another person, that's actually occurring within ourselves. And it's a very, very simple thing to know logically, but to actually bring it into our experience, into our day-to-day experience, that shows us the importance of dealing with conflict. It's not just about the conflict, that's about the problems that are happening on the outside. It's directly affecting us on the inside, and affecting our health and well-being at a very fundamental level. I don't know if that fully answers your questions. I feel like I missed a couple of things in there, but
No, no, you
feel
did
free.
because, we think it's somebody else did it and we need to hold a grudge against them. And it's actually, it is, we are the ones that are suffering. The person, whoever did it, said it, have said that and walked away. But by thinking about it constantly within, it is us that is suffering. And that over time slowly increases your inflammatory markers. And as your inflammation within goes up, then we have physical symptoms that surface. And we are thinking, oh, okay, this is because of something else. And then we start popping pills. But popping pills is just putting a band aid to it. We are not really addressing the root cause, which, whatever the conflicts that we have, that is within us. Um, so that's what my conclusion of that conflict, by holding grudge without forgiving. What are your thoughts on that, Ranjeeth?
Yes, I very much that. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts as well, and my experience as well. And it's one thing, of course, to know this on an intellectual level, but then to bring it into our lives and to bring it into our felt experience, that's a lifetime work. And I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that we might know these things, like including me. I mean, I've looked into this area for a huge chunk of my life, and yeah, it's a continuous process. So that's not meant to discourage us, but to actually give us some space to allow ourselves to continuously develop this understanding over time.
By doing this, we are actually doing the inner work within us, trying to understand our own self, because we try to know everybody else around us, our environment, everything but us. So this is trying to kind of understand our own self, doing the inner work.
That's totally, right? Totally. We get the chance to see in some of these truths, like in some of the ancient scriptures, that all consciousness is one, that we are not separate from each other. By doing this work, we start to see, like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not separate from the conflict that I experience with other, and some of these profound realizations start to happen. Like, wow, okay, like there is no separation between me and the other. I'm actually, the conflict is happening right within me, and I think that's self-awareness, and self with a capital S, from the perspective that our deeper self, the spirit within us, becomes clear, and that is that's, some would say, and I would say for myself, like, that is the very purpose of our existence, is to realize ourselves.
Can you tell us one thing somebody can start, a micro habit, to address this conflict that we have either within us or with others? What is one thing they can start off with?
I think as simple as being aware within our day. Okay, what is something that agitates us within the day? Pick one thing a day. Pick one thing a day. Something at night. Pick one thing. Like, okay, this affected me. This threw me off. This disturbed me. And make a note of it. Sit with the feelings. Be with the feelings. Be with the breath while you're experiencing those feelings, and you'll see that simple process, that simple micro habit, you can do that, like, right at the end of the day. That can actually start to transform how we look at conflict, and I feel like this can actually help us transform how we deal with conflict on all levels, from the personal to the family to the community to the national and international levels. I think all of this can shift from this habit that we do for our own health and our own well-being.
Somebody wants to work with you. How can they reach out to you?
Sure. But so thank you very much, Rajitha, for having me, and I'm very happy that you have this platform where you can share insights on cultivating a greater sense of health and well-being, looking at things from the broad holistic perspective of all sides of health and well-being. And my website, perspectivemapper.org, you'll find my contact details there. And Ranjeeth Thunga is my personal website, ranjeeththunga.com. You can find details on my life there, as well as contact details there. I help people map out their life perspective, their goals, their vision, their outlook, how they see the world, how they see themselves. And I think especially in this decade, with the advent of artificial intelligence and some of the conflicts that we're experiencing on this planet right now, I think it's more important than ever for all of us to reflect on our life and to clarify how we see the world and our value on this planet. And if I can help in that process, I can help provide reflection. Obviously, I can't do the work of clarifying your life for you, but I can help you reflect on your life. So feel free to get in touch. My primary focus, of course, right now is in activism of trying to do my part to help us tackle some of the large conflicts that we are facing in our world, especially as it relates to war and violent conflict. So if anyone feels like I can provide value in that context, especially, please reach out as well.
I am your faith-based holistic coach. Until next time, pay attention to what's happening to your nervous system within you. Pay attention to your breath so that you can resolve your conflict.